heavyweight champion, and I have one stone cold fox of a wife. Whoa!
Meet Jake Hager. From 2008 to 2017, he would perform on national TV for WWE under the ring name Jack Swagger, where he would have a career that a majority of wrestlers who step through WWE's doors over time can only dream of. This includes a reign with the United States Championship, winning Money in the Bank at WrestleMania, competing for the World Championship at WrestleMania, and the main focal point of this video, a reign with the World Heavyweight Championship. This reign lasted throughout the majority of spring and has been regarded as one of the most disappointing and lackluster world title reigns in the history of pro wrestling ever since its conclusion. And that is what we will be covering in today's video. If you do enjoy this video and you want to see more videos about the random stuff that comes to my brain in regards to pro wrestling, please be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Our story begins on March 28th, 2010 at WrestleMania 26. This event would become known for various things, including Shawn Michaels' retirement match and one of the greatest matches in pro wrestling ever in my opinion, the last Money in the Bank ladder match to take place at a WrestleMania, and it's perhaps most known for that iconic 26-man pre-show battle royal that Yoshitatsu won. Good times. In all seriousness though, this was the final WrestleMania to hold a Money in the Bank ladder match before WWE created a pay-per-view for it later that year. The match had 10 people in it, which is a crazy amount for a Money in the Bank ladder match in my opinion, but more people got those Mania checks, so big ups to them. This match included Christian, Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler, Evan Bourne, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Matt Hardy, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and the eventual winner, Jack Swagger. Also taking place on this night would be Chris Jericho defeating Edge to retain the World Heavyweight Championship, and after the match he tried to continue the assault following, but Edge would beat the shit out of him and spear him through the barricade. This would set the stage for what would go down a couple of days later. That Tuesday when they taped SmackDown, yes, WWE used to tape Friday Night SmackDowns on Tuesdays, Jericho would come out, bandaged up, and bragged about beating Edge at WrestleMania. Edge would come out, spear Jericho, and would then get attacked from behind by none other than Jack Swagger, who would cash in his briefcase in the moments following this attack and deliver a gut-wrench powerbomb to Jericho to get the pin and win his first world championship in WWE. And no, we are not counting that bullshit silver ECW title unless it fits the agenda. The purpose of Money in the Bank is to build up young talent or rising stars, or even to give people a push who are already in line, as we'll see later. And I feel like that it takes a bit longer than 2 days than to cash in. If you ask me, March 30th, 2010 was the beginning of the end for Jack Swagger's ascension, no, not the tag team, in WWE, and here is why. Later that night, he gave what was called the State of the World Heavyweight Championship address, and while I cannot find his part on YouTube, I found Teddy Long making a #1 contenders match for Edge and Chris Jericho the very next week, where both men were counted out and put into a triple threat match the very next week, where Swagger would retain the world title for the first time. After this, Edge and Jericho would go fuck off away from the world title, and Swagger would defend against Randy Orton at the Extreme Rules event in April of 2010. This was cool and all, getting your young world champion against one of the most experienced and polished wrestlers contracted to your company at the time, but Randy Orton at this time was on Raw, so this makes very little sense to me. Looking back, SmackDown's main event scene was very weak because after Undertaker took a step back and other guys like Rey Mysterio and CM Punk were consistently in programs of their own, the only credible main eventers were guys like Edge and Chris Jericho with a lot of younger guys, especially younger stars like Dolph Ziggler or Kofi Kingston toiling away on the under/lower middle card. WWE were looking to get a ton of younger guys in the early 2010s, but it seems to me that they refused to ever put enough stock into them being consistent main eventers. During this time as well, I remember Jack had all the cockiness and swagger, pun intended, that made him as entertaining as charismatic as he was before he won the world title. He was legit doing push-ups on the way to the ring and pounding his chest like he was Donkey Kong and all kinds of shit. It was awesome. The second he got that world title, it's almost like Vince told him, "You gotta stop that crap if you want to be a top guy, pal." Because he became stone-faced and bland with every appearance he would make with the world title for the rest of his reign. At the event, he would beat Randy Orton in the literal mid-card of the pay-per-view in an Extreme Rules match. His next challenger was Big Show. Big Show at this point had just turned babyface, which was a pretty cool thing because around this time, he did not turn as much as he did later on in his career and would be drafted to SmackDown to become Swagger's first on-brand feud. The story with this one actually made sense for me as I thought about it more recently. Swagger's finisher at the time was a gut-wrench powerbomb, and Big Show was pushing 450 pounds and 7 feet tall, so Swagger hypothetically couldn't get Big Show up. To combat this, Swagger adopted an ankle lock as his finisher in the weeks leading up to the Over the Limit pay-per-view. The inaugural Over the Limit event took place in what was regarded as probably WWE's worst pay-per-view of the year. Swagger defended the championship against Big Show, and do you remember what I was just talking about, with that neat little story that they were telling leading up to the event? Well, this match for the World Championship won a whopping 5 minutes and ended in a disqualification. And after watching the match back just now for this video, he barely went after the leg and did not attempt an ankle lock once. For comparison, R-Truth and Ted DiBiase Jr. had a match together on that exact same show that pushed 8 minutes and had no stakes on it whatsoever. That was fucking ass. We're now in June and heading into WWE's newest pay-per-view attempt, Fatal 4-Way. For this event, the theme was that every major title would be defended in a Fatal 4-Way match. SmackDown's 4-Way was for the World Championship, with Swagger defending against Big Show, who qualified after the DQ finish, CM Punk, who beat Kane to qualify, and The Undertaker. Or so you thought. Undertaker did beat Rey Mysterio in a qualifying match on an episode of SmackDown, but suffered a concussion and broke both his orbital bone and nose. So he would be replaced by Rey Mysterio, who qualified in what I think was a last chance battle royal to take that final spot in the 4-Way. The pay-per-view would come, and Swagger's short-lived reign of terror would come to an end, as he would be the one to be pinned by Rey Mysterio, ending his reign at 79 days. Remarkably enough, this would only be Mysterio's second world title reign ever and the second longest of his career. Swagger would get his rematch against Mysterio at the inaugural Money in the Bank event in July of 2010 and lost in what was probably one of the more underrated singles matches that WWE put on that year. Swagger would attack Mysterio, and Kane, who had just won the SmackDown Money in the Bank briefcase earlier in the night, would make the save before cashing in the briefcase on a fallen Mysterio and winning his first world title in 11 years. This was the type of program that would take place throughout the remainder of the summer and go into the fall for Kane vs. Undertaker, and I remember enjoying that program as a kid, and I don't think I want to go any deeper into it to ruin it for myself. Swagger won the United States Championship from Zack Ryder in 2012 because Zack Ryder was another guy that Vince saw with the stupid schmuck, and Swagger would rarely ever sniff the main event for the rest of his time in WWE. However, after a brief hiatus at the end of 2012, he came back with Dutch Mantel, known then as Zeb Coulter, and they would perform in what was without a doubt the most racist gimmick of the entire PG era, and the most racist thing to appear on WWE TV since JBL was sending illegal immigrants back over the border. I'm not trying to cancel a wrestling gimmick or anything like that, but hearing some of the things said about people like Alberto Del Rio or Yoshitatsu is some of the craziest things I've heard in wrestling, possibly ever.
Them undocumented because the politically correct crowd refused to call them illegals. Those people sneak across our borders. I'm going to call it exactly what it is. You know what we call people who stay in our country illegally? We call them criminals.
With this gimmick, he got a world title match at WrestleMania 29 and would lose that against Alberto Del Rio. And I feel like he probably would have won the match, but he got arrested leading up to the show on a DUI, possession of marijuana, and speeding, which were all misdemeanors, so he would not face any jail time, but he probably got the Vince hammer, no pause, and then got punished for it. After this, he cut one infamously bad promo in 2016.
And I'm gonna be a big problem, man. I'm gonna be a big problem.
And then did a whole bunch of nothing before getting released in 2017 and would go on to make appearances in 2018 onward to MLW, Lucha Underground, AEW, etc. But this is not a Jake Hager career retrospective, so I'm not going to go into that really. When Swagger's reign happened, I was around 8 years old, and like most kids, I liked the baby faces I was supposed to like for the most part, and I hated the heels. However, in wrestling, you have two kinds of heat as a heel. Heel you love to hate heel, which was The Miz for me, and go away heel, which is what I had for Swagger, especially during this dog shit title reign. I don't think this was all Swagger's fault, as WWE creatively stripped Swagger of any of his redeemable traits as a character. Not that he was ever an exceptional promo, but he became much worse objectively during and after this reign. Same goes for whatever character work he did have. While I do think WWE started his downfall as a credible performer, I don't think he did a great job recuperating. Outside of the racist gimmick, there was absolutely no character development, and his stock was honestly even lower after his reign than before. I remember after that, he went on to the lower card and brought on the Swagger Soaring Eagle, portrayed by Chavo Guerrero as a mascot to bring some of that spark back to his character. He's a very solid wrestler, but putting the World Championship on him was perhaps the worst thing to ever happen to him professionally because it exposed some of his biggest flaws. But yeah, that was Jack Swagger in the worst World Championship reign of all time. What did you think? Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought about this video, as I look for all feedback, positive or negative. If you did enjoy this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you do not miss out on any future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.